Hey everyone, today is pronunciation practice of a different kind. I'm going to say words that Americans get wrong in English. I found this whole book. It's called, I know you can only see it backwards, You're Saying It Wrong. And this is not addressed to foreign speakers. It's addressed to us, the native speakers. Because in English, if we don't hear a word spoken, then we don't always know how to pronounce it. So we just read how it looks and we just guess, and we typically guess wrong. Just like me, for 2 years, I read a sign talking about this new kind of exercise, and I called it Pilates. Yeah, Pilates, who knew? Okay, but that's not in this book. That's just my own experience. So this book lists 150 words that we get wrong. I'm just going to tell you a few. So come with me on this little journey, and maybe you'll recognize some words or expressions from your own language that we completely get wrong. Okay, so first word we've taken straight from the French language, the Coup De Grace. Now you recognize that means the final blow. The Coup De Grace was I got fired or something like that. But a lot of people are afraid about the French endings. We know that you're not supposed to pronounce the S sound, and so they're a little bit nervous about that, and they say the coup de grace. But it's actually the coup de grace. But that reminds me of another word that people are afraid to pronounce the S on, and that is the potato soup called Vichyssoise. And a lot of people who don't know French don't know that it's a feminine word and that they should pronounce the S. So you might hear people say they'd like the Vichyssoise at a fine restaurant, but it's Vichyssoise. And so then, next word, a word that looks like comptroller, because it's spelled C-O-M-P, troller, but it's actually pronounced controller. It's like an accountant. We get that wrong so many times, and then we're always corrected and then embarrassed. Now, if you're ever at a big swimming pool, someone might ask you if you'd like to lie on a chaise longue. But actually, we're not sure how to pronounce it. Is it chaise longue? Is it chaise lounge? My solution is I'll just take that lounge chair over there and forget the French, because we don't know chaise longue, chaise long, lounge. It's all very confusing. So I would just say lounge chair, because it is for lounging. So go for it. Next is the word core, like C-O-R-P-S. We do not pronounce the P and the S because in this case, the French do not do it, and we took the word right from French. So we're not going to do it either, because if we pronounce the P and the S, we would get the word corpse, which is a dead body. Otherwise, we've got to stick with like the Army Corps of Engineer, and it sounds just like the core of an apple. Different spelling, but we all understand it's the, helpful body of people that is the core. Okay, and next, Hutzpah. This is a Yiddish word. If you live in New York, you hear about it a lot because a lot of people have a lot of chutzpah, a lot of guts, a lot of ability to strike and land on their feet. That takes some chutzpah, guts. It looks like chutzpah because it's got a CH beginning C-H-U-T-Z. And if you have never heard the word, you would definitely want to say chutzpah. Just like me, the first time I saw Chanukah, or that is Hanukkah spelled with a CH, meaning that it's supposed to be more guttural, like Hanukkah, but I thought, oh great, it's going to be a party for Christmas and Hanukkah. I was really wrong, but then I learned. And then there's Celtic, which is another confusing C word because it's spelled Celtic, but the Celtic people pronounced C like a K. So we have to say the name of the tribe of people from the Indo-European past that brought us many, that was absorbed into English. They were the Celts, and there is Celtic culture. The Celtics is a Boston basketball team. So go ahead and refer to them as the Celtics, and to the ancient tribe of people who still are trying to revive the language in Ireland and Scotland as the Celts. All right, then we've got another French word, croissant. Okay, so I have no problem with it. Croissant. It's perfectly natural in English. But some people look at that French word and think, ooh, how do I say it? Should I give it my French accent? I'll have a croissant. Well, if you say it that way, you'll never be understood by an American server. So if you want to sound a little pretentious, which people don't always want to do, I don't, but you could say croissant, with the KW sound, croissant. But anyway, many Americans are not sure about how to pronounce that. So it's actually very simple, croissant. And etc. A lot of people, that when you see ETC, it's actually etc. as it kind of reads, but people hear people say etc. And oh my gosh, I think they're both fine, because you hear when a word is said wrong so many times, it becomes right. So if you hear someone say etc., it's the same thing. And then there's that famous author, Dr. Seuss. He's written Cat in the Hat and Hop on Pop and all kinds of fabulous books for kids that I often use in my classes. And we call the author Dr. Seuss, even though he originally pronounced his name as Dr. Seuss, as in German. But again, it was mispronounced so much that he said, okay, I'll be Dr. Seuss. Because sometimes when a word is wrong for so long by so many, it becomes right. And that's one of them. Okay, and then here's an embarrassing confession. The name Hermione, just like in Harry Potter. Well, when I was reading that book to my 10-year-old daughter, I called her Hermione because I had never heard the word pronounced before. And that is a great lesson to learn about English because I had never heard the word pronounced, I didn't know how to say it. So it took about 100 pages. My daughter came back from school one day and said, "Guess what, Mom? It's pronounced Hermione." And then I thought, ooh, I think she's right. So Hermione it is. Apparently it's a much more common name in England. It's definitely not a common name in America, though maybe it will become so, thanks to Hermione of Harry Potter. Then there is that word homage that looks like homage and could also be homage, which is a special honor or public display of respect for somebody. And you hear it often when talking about cinema or something like that, where it's going to be an homage to blah, blah, blah. So actually all three of those ways, homage, 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 I guess so many people are confused about how to pronounce it that anything goes. Just pick one and run with it. Okay, now we're coming to my home state of Illinois. There is an S on the end of my home state, and no, we don't pronounce it because it's got a French pronunciation originally. Those French trappers trapping beavers and all kinds of things back in the 1500s, long ago, took the name of my state, Illinois, from the Illinois Indians, but they gave it a French spelling, and so the N-O-I took an S that we never pronounce. And another state name that I had trouble growing up saying correctly, because I was taught in the Midwest to say Oregon, but don't say that to a person who lives in Oregon, or you will be swiftly corrected. It's Oregon, not Oregon. Okay. Now let's segue to the next word, which is Segway. Apparently a lot of people know how to use this word, like when one thing segues into another, like a song when you want to play one song and then another, you want to segue from this song to another song on your playlist, okay? But it's spelled in a very strange way, S-E-G-U-E. And just like there's Vogue, V-O-G-U-E, but we say Vogue, so should we say seg? I mean, this is the complication of the English language. And so even native speakers, if they've heard the word but not seen it spelled, they might go, what is that word? So it's Segway, just like that moving machine that was spelled as we pronounce it. But never mind. And finally, there is that spice we're all adding to our food these days because it's got such health benefits. Turmeric. Now, if you hear people say turmeric, which I do, I have a feeling both of these words are going to be accepted very shortly in time because everybody understands what you mean. And although I heard turmeric first and I'm going with that, I hear turmeric so much. Who am I to say? Say it as you like. I think they're both fine. And now I'm going to tell you some other words that are too late to be corrected because they have been used for so long. If you say it the correct way, someone's going to correct you on your pronunciation. So when you're at a restaurant and someone says, shall we get the bruschetta? Just say yes. Everyone loves bruschetta, but we don't call it the Italian way, bruschetta. Why? Because nobody corrected us in time. It looks like SCH and SCH, well, actually there's really no excuse, is there? Because school is sk, but it just looks like bruschetta, and I said bruschetta, and I'm not changing. Anyway, and there's also a relatively new food from Vietnam called PHO, which we pronounce as pho. Now, apparently, it's pronounced pho in Vietnam, but I was at a Vietnamese restaurant in New York, and I asked my waiter, could I get the pho, please? And he said, the what? And I said, the pho? He said, what are you talking about? I said, oh, well, I'd like the pho. Ah, the pho. Okay, so you can be overly correct. It depends where you are. Okay, so don't overthink these things. Americans say pho, not pho. All right, and then there are some place names I'd like to go over. And here's this game with some rackets and a cute little thing we call a birdie. And the game is called Badminton. Now, it comes from a place called Badminton, but trust me, no one calls it that. It's badminton. Mitten, just like the thing you wear in the winter to cover your hands. Badminton. And the capital of China, Beijing. I know. It's supposed to be like the Chinese say it, Beijing, but nobody says Beijing. We say Beijing. Sounds a little exotic and respectful, and I don't think anyone's gonna change at this point. And then there's that Christmas plant, the red-leaved and red and green-leaved plant that comes out at Christmas. we call it a poinsettia. Now, these people say, call it poinsettia, but it's just too late. We're not going to. And let's see, everyone's talking about England and all those titles. And I think that the Marquis, we would say Marquis, thinking that it looks like a French word and trying to say it the French way. Apparently, in England, it's called Marquis, but we don't hear it enough here. We're just going with Marquis, as in Marquis de Sade. But that's about the only context we have. So, Marquis it is. And same with the car, the big fancy car from Germany called a Porsche in German because they pronounce the final E's. But here we just say Porsche because that's enough. We don't have to be overly pretentious with an overly pretentious car. We can just say Porsche. And finally, I like to end with the painter, that Dutch painter of many spectacular icons, Vincent Van Gogh. Now, again, these people say, you're pronouncing it wrong. It should be Van Gogh. Or if you really want to sound Dutch, say Van Gogh. But nobody says that. We are fine with Vincent Van Gogh. And I think that's a go. So I hope that's helpful to you. And that's all for now. See you later. Bye-bye.